what have you had to let go of in order to be who you are now?
I used to get triggered easily by people because I had this inferiority complex. I used to just react towards how I felt about what people said, training myself to really do active listening. I also stopped taking things personally. I learned to laugh more. Nothing is so serious. Like, just learn to be playful with life. Have fun with people. Like, mess with them. Like, make them ask questions. People say, like, why are you doing that? Or why are you asking that? I'm like, well, just to make you ask questions. Just being joyful and funny and playful with people was a decision I had to start doing.
Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results. Whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go. I cannot express my excitement for you to meet one of my dearest friends. Man, he feels like a brother to me, Joshua Collier. Joshua Collier is the founder of Levrg AI, a leader in AI-driven automation for sales and customer engagement. With a background spanning finance, coaching, and online sales management, he transitioned from selling low-ticket SaaS to building six-figure AI solutions. And guess what? He's not like a tech nerd. He's super awesome. His team has deployed thousands of chat and AI voice systems for users of top tech platforms. As recognized GHL community experts, he and his partner Kevin host a weekly Thursday support group for Go high-level users. In fact, in just 70 days from launch, you guys, I've witnessed this myself, Levrg AI booked 2,000 plus appointments for a multi-nine-figure client, adding $300,000 in revenue, all powered by AI, with zero new ad spend and zero sales reps. Thrilled to introduce you to my friend. Let's get talking. All right. Welcome back to the podcast. We are here on Unreasonable Autonomy. I got to get myself out of the way because I feel like I am sitting across from one of my BFFs. Let's welcome the amazing Joshua. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Sarah. Happy to be here. Hello, everybody.
Okay, so you guys have heard his amazing bio. Like, there's a million reasons why you should listen to him. He's like an AI god. It's amazing. It's all good. But can I tell you something that is most impressive to me about you?
Tell me.
Okay. Is there anybody listening here that loves to walk into a room and feel unwelcome? Does anybody love that? Like, no one loves to walk into a room and feel like an absolute weirdo. And I will say, if that is you, you need Josh in your circle, because him and we have, met each other in Denver. We met in Vegas again. And you have an absolute gift with making people feel like you belong here. I am happy to see you. You matter. I'm going to give you my attention. Like, superpower of yours. I love it so much about you.
Oh, man. Nobody's ever really pointed that out about me, but it's something deeply rooted in my heart. I know how it feels to be like disregarded. And I never want anybody I meet to ever feel that I give off that energy. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Oh, so you intentionally are that way?
I love people. Yeah, big time.
Kind of fascinating because you're in the AI space, which feels like maybe you would not.
Dichotomous, like two opposite ends of a spectrum. Yeah.
Two opposite ends. And we will dive into all of the things. But I first want to make sure everybody's on the same page. We've heard your bio. They now know that they want to be in the same room as you because you will feel like, gosh, you belong and you're worth $1 million when you are in the room there with Josh. But will you just orient everybody so we can get straight to it and your life and your journey? Can you tell us a little bit about what got you from small town, nice guy, preacher's kid, all the way to AI giant walking into some of the coolest rooms in the business, in a fabulous partnership, all the things. But give us the 4 to 5 minute version of what got you from there to here, and then we will dive deep.
Oh man, since everything's transpired, I've not really had an opportunity to share my testimony. So I'm gonna try to keep this succinct and try to encompass all the major points. So yeah, my dad's a preacher. I am one of 3 kids. I'm the youngest. my brother Jacob and my sister Rachel. We moved. I've always lived in Tennessee. My dad's been a pastor in the Methodist denomination for 58 years. My dad is 78 years old, and so he's been in the ministry for a long time. And growing up, I was always in a fishbowl, small town, like small rural towns, Jamestown, Waverly, Clarksville, Smyrna, Tennessee. I live in Murfreesboro now.
Yeah.
And so everybody always knew everything that was going on in our life. And so I always had a lot of external pressure. And then, so we weren't wealthy growing up, but we weren't poor either. We were a standard middle-class family. We still ordered off the dollar menu, stuff like that. I was still the traditional system-oriented Americans, go to college, get a job, et cetera, et cetera. Long story short, when we moved to Waverly, that's when I turned 17, I got an idea for my first sermon. I got my first mentor whenever I was 14 at like this thing that I went to for my dad's church. So I got my first mentor. He taught me how to write sermons. He taught me how to write. And I love writing. And it's the way I express myself. And so whenever I was 17, my dad gave me a platform to preach my first sermon. And I did. And I went on from there to preach about and write my own sermons, about 17 of them.
Wow.
At different stages and platforms. And so that was from like 17 to 19. What's interesting though, is on the complete opposite side of that, I almost went to jail twice whenever I was 17. So there's total like left ball field there.
Wait, you can't go on. Like, why were you almost put in prison when you were 17 while you were teaching sermons? What's going on?
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll get back to it.
Okay.
And then from that, I really started struggling with substance abuse. And then I got into entrepreneurship at 18. I was recruited into World Financial Group. I got my life insurance license. That was my first entrepreneurial journey. For 3.5 years, I was at World Financial Group. After that, I met my now ex-wife. Through that process, I was working in the finance industry. I bought a coaching program because I failed my Series 7 exam 3 times in a row. And I was like, I'm getting married. We were engaged at the time. And I was like, I got to figure out something to do. Engaged at 24, failed my Series 7 3 times, pivoting industries, bought a coaching program, wound up working for Taylor Welch, wound up working for Armin Shafi at highticketcoaching.com, becoming the sales manager, doing like sales coaching for his clients and stuff like that. And so that's what got me into the online space. And then from there, wound up working with Kevin because I recruited Kevin as a closer while I was managing Armin's sales team. And Kevin used to work for an AI company and then wound up, we quit the company at the same time and then started Levrg AI. And so that's pretty much the fast track. Now I'm just now getting back into my speaking roots, like writing books and trying to, obviously with the podcast, Entrepreneurship Sucks, which we're going to have you on very shortly.
Ooh,
and exactly. And so, that's my 5-minute, like, origin story from start to finish in a very succinct fashion. So there's a lot to dig into there.
Yeah, like we're going to have part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4 with you probably as part of this podcast. If this can be your stage, that would be great because I don't want to skim over anything. Sure. I first am, when I look at it overall, I'm like, my guess is that you would be like 60 years old with all of the life experience that you have had. Okay. How old are you now?
26.
26 years old. What the heck? Hello, Fast Tracker. This is amazing. Yeah. Okay. Wise beyond your years for sure. Because I learned so much from you. Tell me, can we first start with the idea of my dad is a Methodist preacher, 58 years, right? He has been preaching for 58 years. You were the youngest kid, right? The baby of the family. You're supposed to be the spoiled one, right? In that realm. What kind of impact as you dove into the age of 14 and you found a mentor, were you fully committed to what you were being taught religiously? Were you in it to win it?
People say they know Jesus intellectually, but not actually relationally. Regardless of what people believe, their relationship with God is oftentimes intellectual, meaning they're more familiar with the concepts of what it means to have a relationship with God rather than the reality of it. And so at 3 years old, this is interesting. All 3 of my father's children, me, my brother, my sister, all approached him at 3 years old, all of us, to say, Dad, we want to accept Jesus into our heart. And so he didn't push that on us ever. We were just raised in a truly biblical, truly Christian home. And that's a decision that we made. I have known intellectually God my whole life.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was broken by life that I actually formed a deep relationship with my creator that I know now. Yeah. So it took me 20 years to develop that relationship.
And are you grateful for how you were raised?
Kind of.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah, well, I mean, growing up in a fishbowl sucked. I mean, everybody knew exactly. Literally, imagine Jamestown, Tennessee. If you've ever been there, it's literally one strip, like off a branch of a highway, and then there's like in the center of that strip, there's the main bank, and then there's a Pizza Hut and a church. And my house was right between the Pizza Hut and the church on the main street. Everybody knew where I lived. Everybody could see our house. It was crazy. So like on one hand, I told my dad at lunch the other day, I'm super grateful for the influence that I had growing up. The Bible says to teach your kids the way they should go and they will not depart from it. They may veer from that path for a season.
Yeah.
But I came back because God had my heart. And that's where my dad raised me. That's how my dad raised me. So I was expressing gratitude. So I am grateful. Did it have its challenges? Absolutely. And so, but I am grateful for it.
Well, I'm so fascinated by when you're talking about like everybody knew what was going on in our lives, right? I mean, between the Pizza Hut and the church, everybody knows what's going on in that house in between, and that it created pressure. Now, I know you are not a dad yet, right? Mm. When is pressure healthy? When is pressure means to an end to help someone behave or develop a testimony or be obedient or have a happier life? Like what's your opinion on that kind of pressure, especially in a religious setting?
That's a really good question. Yeah. Let's see here. I would think that, pressure often comes for me with, let's just use substance abuse as an example. Almost going to prison is some pressure, right? Mm-hmm. And so where did that pressure come from? My own decisions.
Yeah.
But there's other forms of pressure. And I feel like I'm sure all of us can relate with, feeling some conviction from God and like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Like this doesn't vibrationally does not align with who I am trying to become. And I feel like God and the Holy Spirit, if that's what you believe in, like, he'll let you know whenever you're misaligned. And that's some pressure too. And so I think that with things like a substance abuse and like Russell Brunson calls a call to adventure into entrepreneurship, that is also a different form of pressure. So I think pressure is healthy, but there's lots of different forms of pressure. And as somebody who has I'm a procrastinator, I'm a lazy entrepreneur. That's why I use AI. That's why I've made a whole business around AI, is because I'm a lazy entrepreneur. I procrastinate things. Kevin and I were actually talking about intentionally delaying things so that you have the motivation to get them done. You let that monkey be on your back.
Right.
And so, but external pressures like you're talking about as pertaining to my story from other people's expectations is where I learned to be a nice guy, because I adhered to other people's expectations. And I became a people pleaser because of the expectations. I became addicted to meeting their expectations and adhering to that pressure because of it.
Okay. And I'm going to push you on this a little bit. I also grew up in a religious home, and I'm still part of my faith that I was raised in, right? I'm a Mormon, or member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay. Yeah. And so I'm a Mormon, and my dad was a stake president, which is sort of like a preacher, okay, in your realm. And I felt a lot of that kind of pressure, that I am a stake president's girl, and therefore I am here to maintain a standard, right? And in fact, I remember sitting with maybe a little bit of a lower leader. We call them bishops. And he had pulled me in to let me know that there were kids in our community that were going to view a particular movie, which in the Mormon culture would have been considered inappropriate, because they heard that the stake president's daughter had seen it. and they were giving themselves permission to go and engage with this. I know we're laughing about it now, but I promise it relates. That they were giving themselves permission because apparently I was setting the standard, and kind of scarred me. It scarred me in the sense of I am a representative of what it means to be a disciple of Christ, right? Or a follower of the Lord or something like that. And it's funny because it scarred me from a young age, but here's how I see it. I now look at myself and I'm like, it got me through some of the hardest years of my life without making huge mistakes. Because of that pressure. And so I battle with this with you in a sense of like, when is that, even that external pressure, how do you know if it's healthy versus how do you know you're just letting other people dictate your life?
I don't think you do until you have like an adult, mature perspective on it when you've been several years removed from the situation and you've had, because then those experiences become reference points and you're able to relate to them. Like Josh was talking about the other day, like, I don't know if you were on the most recent call, but like he was talking about what is content? Content is leverage. What is leverage without relevance? Nothing, right? So if it's a leverage, the reference point bring relevance to the topic of discussion. So like the pressure now is I can look back and appreciate it because it was there. And honestly, in the moment, it is what it is. It's stimulus. And we react to that stimulus based on our development at that point.
Yeah.
And so like, I am grateful for it because I think it turned me into something that I otherwise would not have been.
So you look at it now, hindsight, years removed, I look at it with gratitude, having that kind of pressure, having that kind of structure, that example, stages for you to be able to express that testimony were provided for you. I want to back up to something you said. You said, I found pressure and expectation that I needed to be a nice guy. That phrase is so triggering for me. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to just hand those two words off to you and tell me where this comes from.
What nice guy, the two words?
Yep.
I think a lot of guys struggle with being nice guys. And I think a lot of guys struggle with being assholes. And like, it's just two ends of the spectrum. And there's balance in that. My father isn't a nice guy, but he's extremely considerate and extremely thoughtful and extremely compassionate. I've seen my father angry before, but you can't be a pastor in the marketplace. It will cost you your business. And I tried to be a pastor in the marketplace. What I mean by that is,
tell me more.
The same degree of compassion that a pastor holds for his congregation is not the same compassion that will lead value being added to your clients, because business demands like a standard. It demands, especially when you're dealing with business operations and negotiations and like you can't bend over backwards for your clients. You got to draw the line somewhere. You got to prevent scope creep, which is a term I learned the other day, which is pretty fancy, but like, you know what I mean? Like letting your clients walk all over you, letting your prospects walk all over you, letting them set the terms, not showing up with confidence, not showing up with certainty and like conviction, and keeping your chest out, your shoulders up and your head straight, and not feeling some kind of like nervous little energy, like you're a little kid, like you haven't done this before. And so like what that really encompasses for me is like, I felt like that growing up. I felt insignificant. I felt inferior. I felt powerless. And it wasn't until I got in front of, because two of my favorite quotes are proximity is power. And also exposure increases expectations. And so whenever you're exposed to people that are playing and operating at a higher level than you, you begin to create like this version of yourself in your imagination about what the future version of yourself looks like if they were to emulate those people. Bart Miller, Eileen Wilde, Russell Brunson, Myron Goldman, like all these players, like you get exposed to them, your expectations of yourself are increased. And so I've been going at this for 8 years, and I didn't realize how many character, I'm going to call them flaws, but like how big the gap was of my development, my character, my personality, and my focus and skill set was from how far it was from where I needed to be to have the lifestyle that I wanted. And I feel like my upbringing kept me in those environments and those ecosystems that limited my growth. because I wasn't exposed to things that I needed to be exposed to as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is a calling. It's a ministry. Make money so you can make, add value to people's lives. Like Tony Robbins having fed over 30 billion meals to people across the world.
Yep.
Insane. And I'm like, I want to do that. And so I get motivation from the fact that for the first 20 years of my life, I was not in the ecosystem to make massive impact and to have transformation done to me because I wasn't around the right influences, except for my father and my mentor, but they laid the foundation for all the rest. They gave me a very strong foundation to build on top of, which I am eternally grateful for, So,
yeah. So tell me a little bit about this. When you say I am grateful for my upbringing, it sounds like the biggest issue for you was proximity to people that were doing what you were doing. So it was more like that I was part of a small town and I wasn't being brought into entrepreneurship circles. And I didn't have those examples in my life. Okay. And here's what's fascinating is you're talking so deeply about my dad is very considerate. He's very compassionate, right? But, or however you want to put it, entrepreneurship and sales, they demand a standard. And so are you implying that God does not demand a standard?
No, I think it's just a different type of standard. We're in the online marketing space right now.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty wild.
It's very wild. And what I say, you can't be a pastor in the marketplace. It's am I going to shepherd my sheep and help them develop their relationship with God? Or am I going to make people money? Mm-hmm. And you can do both, but I figured out I want to do both for the people that work in my company. It's not up to me to, with my clients, my ministry to them is making them more money and developing a relationship with them. And hopefully by influence, I can show them Jesus through how I behave. Like Paul said, it's not your faith that produces good works. I'll prove to you my faith by my good works.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm thinking that and it's a good question. God definitely does demand a standard, and it's actually me upholding God's standard that allows me to uphold my business standards. Because if I'm living in disobedience with the standard that God holds, then I'm not going to be blessed, and I'm not going to be in alignment with his will and his vision for my life for the business standards. So it's it's more important,
I have never heard a better answer to that.
Have you asked that question before?
Not in that exact way. I'm a little bit speechless, which is really rare for me. Okay. So moment of silence for this.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit speechless because what it brings to my mind is you actually can have both, right? You can have both. You can love God and you can do the money gig and everything, but it may not be your most obvious hook or drawing point that you're going to bring people to Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. Your most powerful hook to bring people to Jesus is how you live and how you run your business.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're dying right now. This is good.
Yes. Taylor Welch said something. Was it Taylor? But I think it was. But it was your business is a reflection of your mindset and your skill set. And Myron said something equivalent assets. What are assets? Assets are equal to your mindset, your skill set, and your tool set.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, okay, sets, but I'm thinking, what is foundationally more so than all of those is like Myron said, God is source. We are resource. God's creator. We are creation. If I'm not in harmony and alignment with my creator, what I bring into creation is not going to be in alignment with what my creator wants me to create.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't bless somebody as much as if I'm addicted to porn, if I am drinking every day, if I'm getting high every day, if I am treating people with anger and I'm not living with the fruits of the Holy Spirit and actually, what's sin, people know what it is they shouldn't be doing. Right. And so if you're ignoring that, you're not adhering to God's standard and you're going to compromise your business effectiveness for your clients as a result of that.
Wow. And we've seen that happen in the celebrity world and obviously in the marketing world. And I remember studying everybody that had spoken on stage at the first Funnel Hacking Live that I'd been at, and their marriages were train wrecks. Their family lives were train wrecks. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not inspired anymore. Like, right? Because I was like, that is not the end result that I want out of this community that I'm in. And boy, have I figured things out and matured in many ways. It took me a lot longer than it has for you.
Well, I still haven't figured it out, the other notes, like I have more failures than what I mentioned in my little intro there. So maybe we can dig into some of those in a minute.
Well, I'm fascinated by the idea of you being in prison, actually. Okay. Because I'm trying to.
I almost went there.
Okay. Well, tell us about the almost and like age 17, set the stage.
Age 17. Let's see. My sister meets her now husband of, 6 years.
Oh, hooray. Okay.
On Christian Mingle. And we're driving, me and my best friend at the time, Cody, we're driving my sister's car, and we're about to leave to go to Grenada, Mississippi, to meet Blaine, who's now my brother-in-law.
Okay.
And Cody wasn't buckled up. And, I told you I struggle with substance abuse. So we met up with a guy we knew. And he bought us a bottle of liquor and some weed. And so we got the bottle of liquor and some weed, and we're about to go drive to Mississippi. We got our payload. We're going to be cool for the week. We got our vices and stuff like that. And Cody's not buckled up, and we're driving back to my house, and there's a cop that's sitting just chilling, see that Kevin doesn't have the seatbelt on. And he pulls us over.
No way.
And the guy that we had
because of the seatbelt?
Yeah.
Wow.
And what made it worse is, we're young, we're like 17. We're not cool. We don't understand how to handle these types of situations. The guy in the back that we had help us facilitate the whole thing starts moving the bag around, like moving into the back, and the cop saw him do that too. So he's suspicious. He comes up to the window. He knows who the guy is in the back because his dad had owned a restaurant like in the town. So He knew who it was. He knew it was like what was going on. Has the dog come out, sniffs, barks, finds the weed, calls my dad. Dad comes, very disappointed. For some reason, my parents still let me go to Grenada with Cody, but we didn't have anything. Okay. There's that. We go to Grenada, and then the second night we're there, we go to the McDonald's, and we do what teenagers do, and we connected with some other teenagers. At 3 a.m., we found ourselves in the hood, in the projects section of the town, and with some very sketchy characters.
Okay.
Cops start circling, and then we drive, we leave, and then I get tailed. And then guess what I pulled into when I got pulled over? You'll never guess.
I will never.
A Methodist church parking lot.
God is kind.
It's funny. And then they let me off the hook. They called my dad. Dad's like, again?
Oh,
and so they had to go pick up my sister from the hotel, bring her back to where I was to drive her own car back to the hotel. The cop was like, we sent a kid your age to juvie this morning for this very thing. But he's like, I just got a feeling about you. You're different. It doesn't seem like you're trying to screw up your life. It seems like you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's like, so I'm just going to let you go. And, the funny thing is that like he pulled me out of the car for like DUI.
Yeah.
And I was just high. And I said, I'm like, give me a sobriety test. I'll pass it. I passed it. So they couldn't charge me for a DUI. Mm-hmm. But what they did find was some crumbles of weed in the back of the car. And then so whoever was like rolling the blunt or whatever, like dropped some weed on the car. And that's what they used like as evidence. But they let me go. Those were 2 times. Those 2 times were back to back by 2 days. Oh, so like,
gosh.
Yeah. So imagine your 17-year-old child going through that in a different state. Like you would probably be flipping out as a parent.
Well, and I'm kind of dying to see it from your parents' perspective, for sure yours. But like, what the heck? What are your parents thinking through this? What was the repercussion?
They were pissed. They were like so mad, Yeah. And then at that point, I really started to like calm down, be more smart. I can't say that I stopped smoking. I can't say I stopped with the substance abuse. That was something I went to struggle with until I was 25.
Until you were 25. So, yeah. And I know that you're 26 now. So this is like a recent.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even like a struggle. Like It wasn't like I was drinking every day, smoking every day. It was just like in my mind, I was still on that battlefield.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of warring with substances.
And now you would say you're not?
No, definitely not.
Why?
I just made a decision to stop.
Okay, that sounds not real to me.
I mean,
that's amazing.
It sounds not real, but what else is there to do after you struggle with it for 12 years?
Right. I mean, as you look back on it, 12 years, like why was that the solution for you for those 12 years?
Just stopping?
No, why were you using substances?
Oh, yeah, it's a really good thing. I've talked to Kevin about this. I'm like, well, if drugs and alcohol are the answer, what is the question? What could possibly be the question?
Right.
And it's just about escaping. It's just about numbing. Like, it's a response pattern. It's like you get triggered by stimulus, and then like in your brain, physiology. I don't even know how to say what I'm trying to say, but like your body is addicted to that as a response because you've trained it for that. And so it only takes, if you look at like the programming period, it doesn't take that long to program your body to become dependent on this substance. But the amount of time it takes to break that pattern after you've been relying on it as a substance for so long.
Yeah.
It is like, you got to reverse engineer it out of your system. I tried for so long to just break free from it, but it wasn't until, again, coming back to getting exposure, it really wasn't around the time until I invested in Josh Forty's coaching program and we went full time with this business that I broke the power that substance abuse had over my consciousness, over my will. And it sounds overly simplified. It is just a decision that you make, but the frequency of the decision must be higher than the frequency of the impulses that you have to do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you gotta manufacture the higher intensity. You gotta create it. You gotta decide that you're gonna be more aggressive about this than otherwise, whatever the other option is.
And that seems to be part of what happened when you found a mentor at 17 that tried to kind of, get the juices going. And then again, you found another mentor in Josh Forty. We share that mentor that's helped you break through for a lot of those. So I think a mentor is a really critical part of any kind of next level, like new level, new devil, new mentor, like go after kind of thing. I want to back up though about, the 12 years in which, while it wasn't like the everyday struggle of being high and this kind of thing, you're talking about that it's this escape. And is that an escape from, I can't figure out entrepreneurship? Is it that like the girl life is a disaster?
Yeah.
Is it that I'm not in college? Like the expectations there, like make the connection for us.
Yeah. So it was like so imagine that you just are so ambitious towards one goal, you can't figure it out. And then like what you said, like I'm trying to figure out entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I'm trying to change my life and I'm trying to feel more. And I'm trying with my hands to create something in a business sense that allows me to feel more. But at the end of the day, I don't feel that in my mind. I don't feel that in terms of like a chemical release in my body. And so I'm going to turn to substances to make me feel. It's like the six human needs that Tony talks about: certainty, love, connection, contribution, and like growth. And mine was growth. And I wasn't getting growth. I struggled for 6 years. And it's really interesting because the vice that I turned to give me that sensation that something's happening was the very thing holding me back from getting to that next level. Because it was a pattern that I developed when I was 14 before I went on the entrepreneurial journey. Right. So.
Ooh, keep going.
Yeah. So like whenever I was 14, like I started smoking weed. And so whenever I turned 18 and I was like getting mad at like my lack of results, because I had been at entrepreneurship for all of like 6 months and I was getting frustrated. It's like, it just self-perpetuated. And it became more than just a numbing of the lack of frustration, like the frustration towards a lack of growth. It then just became a bad habit. And at that point, that's all that it was. And so it's really both. It's like, that's how it started, but that's what it evolved into. And then the next thing you know, like people say you can't get addicted to weed, but that's bullshit. Like, yes, you absolutely can. You can get physiologically addicted to any substance, even if it's like coffee. I drank like 4 cups today. So like you can get addicted to anything. It's just dependent on it. And so like, and I've asked myself the same question a lot, Sarah, like I pontificated about why, where, how.
Sure.
And, you know, at the end of the day, I haven't had up until like recently, and this is what entrepreneurship did for me, is just like gave me a strong enough reason to become somebody different. And I think that that's why God called me into entrepreneurship, is because it called me to a higher standard. It called me to a higher version of myself. And, you know, alcohol addiction, weed addiction, like whatever, nicotine addiction, porn addiction, whatever addiction could not come with me to the next level. And I think that's very like, that is the microcosm of the macrocosm of scripture that says it's no longer I that live, but it's Christ that lives in me. Like we are us 2.0, Sarah 2.0, Joshua 2.0. There's a new version of us available to us through God. And I, for the longest time, struggled, and I was in my own way with it because of this paradigm that I created, this self, like this looping belief system that fed in its own bullshit to itself and kept itself stuck. And it wasn't until I saw how wealthy people who were free believed and operated that I was able to free myself and adopt those belief patterns and then those, you know, that stuff to be able to escape from it. And so it ultimately, like, it did just come down to a decision to start thinking like Josh, start thinking like Bart, start thinking like you, start thinking like every person that is free. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Dogs barking. Thanks a lot, you guys. Welcome to the real podcast here. I'm going to keep going with this because there's like 500 questions I have for you. Okay.
Yeah. What's up?
Your comment. Okay. I'm going to wait for the dog. Just a sec.
You're fine. I got 3 of them, so I know how it is.
He's like this little golden doodle that is as sweet as can be. So just chill out. Okay. I think we're good.
All right.
So one of the 5,000 questions that I now have for you after your comments is this idea of, I need to get back on track, just a sec. So one of the 5,000 questions I have for you is centered around this idea that entrepreneurship has been planted in you. And I remember Alex Sharfin talking about how the only way that you can know if you're an entrepreneur is to ask yourself one question. And that is, can you turn it off? Can you turn it off? And I'm like, so true, right?
Yeah.
Like a whole bunch of crazy people. We literally can't turn it off. And so we belong there in that realm. And I am so grateful for the impact you've had on my life and your clients' lives, that like you couldn't turn it off even when there was substance abuse and even when you were almost in prison and like all the things. Like, I'm so grateful that you have stuck through all of that. And I think this matters a lot when you talk about who is the new me, right? Who is the new me and what needs to be subtracted in order for me to come to that next level. And what's fascinating about our relationship, you and I, is that we knew each other at the 1.0 and we now know each other at the 2.0. Like we actually kind of went through it together. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. So as you look at your own 1.0 to 2.0 story, being in the room with Josh or whatever rooms you've been in that have brought you there, what have you had to let go of?
People pleasing, setting tighter parameters around, like, my goal was to step off the battlefield of substance abuse.
Yeah.
I think it's more about like, some people are like, you got to quit cold turkey everything. I'm like, no, you just need to stop labeling it as a struggle and let it lose its power over you. And then just find something greater to give your energy to, and it will stop bothering you. So I've done that. Expectations, communicating expectations. Like, can you repeat the question again? Because several things came to my mind.
Yeah, just you are committed to being an entrepreneur, bottom line, right?
Yeah.
And
major decisions.
Yeah. What have you had to let go of in order to be who you are now?
I used to get triggered easily by people because I had this inferiority complex.
Yeah.
And so like Kevin and my brother would be able to tell you a lot about that. But just like I used to just react towards how I felt about what people said, training myself to really do active listening. You know, that's one thing that Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss talks about is active listening versus like just passive listening to respond, and using actual tactics to deploy in your conversations, like repeating the last four words of their sentence to them to show them that you're listening to them. And then what that does is forces you to also think about your response. And so that was one thing. I also stopped taking things personally. I learned to laugh more, and like also taking, like, nothing is so serious. Like, just learn to be playful with life. Like,
I love that so much.
Have fun with people, like mess with them, like make them ask questions. People say like, why are you doing that? Or why are you asking that? I'm like, well, just to make you ask questions. You know, like just being joyful and funny and playful with people was a decision I had to start doing. The vices, obviously, and the substance abuse is self-explanatory. You know, we talked about that. I also put on the student cap again in every situation.
Oh, I love this. Yes.
So I graduated from MTSU with a bachelor's degree in business innovation and entrepreneurship. That's what my degree is in.
I didn't know that about you. That's so cool. Keep going.
That happened. And I had always, especially because I started in like the multi-level marketing space with World Financial Group when I was 18, I thought I knew it all. I knew a lot. I had a lot of intellectual knowledge. Like, anybody you ask, I've got a lot of information in my head, but like wisdom is developed in a different way. And I think that I started approaching rooms and scenarios and people with like this attitude of, there's nothing you could teach me that I don't already know. Ooh. But it was a very shallow knowledge. It was wide, and a mile wide, but an inch deep about specific things. Yeah. And it was just an ego thing, you know? And so I laid that down, and now I try to approach every person that I meet with the attitude of, you have something that I need to learn from you and that I haven't learned yet. I try to approach like with FHL this year, I approached it like, I'm a newbie. I know nothing. I suck at business. This is the first time I'm hearing anything about anything. And I got so much good stuff out of FHL. And now I try to just approach every situation like that as well. So those are a few things.
Yeah. And I'm loving this idea of, you went the intellectual route, right? Like, you got the degree. And what is hysterical is that is never what you lead with when you introduce yourself. Or like,
You're right.
Like what everybody puts on their wall, right? Their degree and their like whatever.
I don't even know where mine is. It's like in the attic somewhere in a box. Like, I don't even care about it.
I think that's real symbolic for you. Like, I really do. Okay. Yeah. I think that's hysterical. I don't know that about you, because you've kind of, you went through it with God in the same way. I learned about God intellectually. Right. Mm-hmm. But like, it wasn't until I actually started to dive into something real and personal and one-on-one and direct and listening and humility that I hit gold. Right. Has that been your experience?
Absolutely. For sure. Yeah, it is.
So as we talk about your experience, for example, at Funnel Hacking Live, and you're saying, I walk into the room and I'm kind of the idiot and I'm just here to learn from whoever I'm around with. How does that translate into actually growing the business? Because you're not stupid.
No, right? Definitely not.
You're really brilliant. Like, tell me why that approach works.
I think it's just emptying your mind. You know, Bruce Lee, his whole approach was about being still as water, emptying your mind. And the same thing in sales. That's our philosophy, scriptless sales, you know, emptying the mind of our prospect. And so the same thing is true with, you know, entrepreneurship, business, and all, like and you're right, with the intellectual part of my relationship with God and upbringing and school and FHL, the difference is that I went in there with an empty mind. I didn't go in there with preconceived notions that I knew everything that I was about to learn, because I've sat through that class before. You know, if you've ever read the Bible or the religious texts that we're all familiar with, every time you go back to read it, it's different, not because the text is different, you know, it's living, it's breathing, but because you're different. And because you have different, like we talked about before we started the podcast, like I think even in the beginning of this episode, reference points.
Yes.
For like, yes. It being relevant, like, oh, I hear this information this way this time, and I had this experience that lines up with that. So my brain is actually able to connect like real life memories, the things that I went through with this new information. So it like stores it in a different part of my brain and I connect with it better. And it's the same thing with the Bible. Like whenever we read it and we go back, oh, like, okay. So, you know, like exercising the fruits of the Holy Spirit. I got pissed at my spouse the other day. Maybe I should apply this in instances like that. And so like I draw the correlation, I connect the dots, so to speak. And having an empty mind, coming at it like a student, makes that easier versus coming in like, I'm only here to network. Like, I just want to meet people. I don't want to learn anything new. I am just here to connect with people, which isn't bad. Some people,
Right.
and Kevin was like that. He was like, I just want to connect with people. I'm like, go connect with people.
Yes.
I'm hungry for this. But the good news is that we're coinciding on one brand, one company. Like, he can do the networking stuff, and he did a phenomenal job at that.
Right.
And when, like, I'm the CEO, I'm the doer, he's the dreamer. I was here and like absorbing all of the tactical stuff that I wanted to learn because I was hungry for it. And I haven't been hungry for it in a long time. I almost didn't go to FHL, but Bart Miller encouraged us to go. So
and there you were. Go ahead.
And Josh, by the way.
Yes. To be there for different reasons for each of you, which I think matters a lot. You talked about, okay, I'm just going to be really blunt. I know the kind of deals that you guys close. I know the kind of money you guys rake in, right? I feel very privileged that I've had a front row seat to all of that. And I'm so glad that we're friends. Okay. Do you apologize for the money that you make?
Definitely not. The more somebody pays us, the more they make.
And so you're just a piece of it. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, the more you pay me, the more I'm going to over deliver for you.
In small town Tennessee, do you feel the need to apologize for the money that you make?
No, because they're not my clients.
But they are your friends. They are your family, right?
Absolutely. And they'll benefit. Like, my perspective is eventually they'll benefit from what we do. But like, if they sign up on one of our AI platforms or they come to us, but like, most of the businesses that are in small town Tennessee are not we wouldn't even work with them or like you're talking about high ticket, like our programs that are high ticket, getting them results oriented, they probably wouldn't be qualified for our high ticket services unless they were like, I don't know.
Small town Tennessee.
Do you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't work with them anyway. So like, I wouldn't have a reason to apologize to them.
I love your conviction on it, right? Because you really are one of the first people that I've talked to that has a strong Christian background, that grew up middle class, that doesn't have dissonance with it. Yeah,
no, definitely not. I think it took me a while to adopt this high ticket frame, but until I started seeing the correlation, like for instance, we started out selling $500 a month subscriptions to a chatbot.
Right.
The results that we got for our clients were atrocious. We started doing 3 to 5K to 7K build outs on chatbots. The clients were happy because they had a functional chatbot that they could go sell, but we still hadn't produced results for anybody with the AI.
Oh, interesting.
Then we hired Josh and he was like, how about you charge 30 grand and you just focus on making money for people with AI? What are the qualification criteria of people that you could get the best? You know, the freedom multiplier?
Yes.
What 3 things that your client needs to have in place for you to get the best result for them? We were like, all right, high ticket offer, leads in the database, and existing lead flow coming through. If they have those things, we can install the AI and then send them to the moon. And then we're like, okay, now that we have the frame of reference, like somebody comes across, well, we started working with Josh. We had a referral partner introduce us to our big client that we have right now. It's a 9-figure enterprise client that we booked. We made them over $500,000 in like 100 days with just AI.
Sanity.
And we only charged them $30K. And so I say it like that, we only charged them $30K. They got over almost a 20x ROI on their investment. And it wasn't until we hired a coach, we hired Josh, somebody who's been there, done that, has the lifestyle to prove it, and had said, this is the way you need to go, attach it to an ROI, establish the metrics that you need to achieve that ROI, and then charge accordingly. And so that whole process right there was like, we were charging low ticket and getting shit results. We went high ticket and started making people so much more money. And so it's just interesting that was the relationship with it. But I think a lot of it has to do with, one, the opportunity at hand with combined with Levrg AI. And then that's the name of our company. That's why we named it. That's pretty funny. And then simply charging as a percentage of what the upside is.
Right.
And it makes us, we have the resources, we have the, bandwidth to be able to over deliver for that client. Now we don't have to be like, oh, we got to make 20 more sales of our SaaS offer this month at $300 a month,
right,
to be able to make payroll so that we can deliver barely what this client asked for. It's like one client, we can pay for payroll for 2 months, over deliver for this client. And if we don't take on another client, we over delivered for this one and we're good. And so they're happy. They're going to send us referrals. It's all going to work out. So it completely shifted the game for us working with Josh versus how we were trying to do it. But for me, I was scared as hell to do that. Kevin wasn't, because he had already gone through stuff like this. Right. He already made money as an entrepreneur. This is my first break as an entrepreneur, like big break. And right. So now we're raising our prices to $50K. Because we're like, why not? We're making people so much money with AI. So it's just growing and growing and growing. And the more we charge people, the more we make them. And it's like, this isn't what I experienced as a small town preacher's kid. Right. Like Josh talks about, wealth runs in networks. People pay for outcomes. And that's why we got into this space. And that's why we increased our prices. Yeah, it was definitely it was so hard, Sarah. Shifting that in myself, because I'm a nice guy. I didn't want to overcharge people. Right. I'm like, we could do it for them for less.
Right. Oh, I can hear Josh on the other end of that. Oh God.
I know, right? He was smacking me, right?
Right. Well, and you're going to just think I'm so woo-woo for constantly pulling this back to religion, but I feel so drawn to that conversation with where you're at, that this is totally what God does, is he asks for this investment, which is a large investment. It's mind and it's soul and it's lifestyle. And you ever been a Mormon? Let's talk. Okay. Here is the investment of what he's asking for to be connected to him. But what he delivers on the other end is 20x, right? It's 100x. Mm-hmm. It cannot be matched, right?
No, it can't.
And I love the application, bringing it into the business realm, that if you're struggling to charge high ticket prices, you haven't figured out how to deliver, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got to go through that process to know your skill set and to know your toolkit, right? So that you can stand in front of someone and sell them on that. And it's a no-brainer. And for people listening, I have sat in the room with Josh, right? I know what he's like in social settings, in business settings. I have sat there with you. And when you talk about, I've just learned to not take things seriously and to be more playful, that is exactly how you are, right? I imagine when you're charging $50K, you're actually pretty chill about it now, because you know what's on the other end of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're bang on.
Oh, I'm just go ahead.
What's on the other end of it. And we've taken a lot of inspiration from you. I think that what spurred us a lot was whenever we heard your revenue and you have the highest, at some point you were the biggest deal closed. And I was like, we're spurring each other. And you talked about Sarah 1.0, Josh 1.0 at the same time. We were going through Josh 40's coaching program and we both level up. And so we saw that happen with each other. And I definitely think that it's coming back to proximity is power, exposure increases expectation.
Right.
And I'm still going to we're looking at joining Josh Lyon's coaching program, going to Alex Hormozy's scaling workshop. Just all these different things. We're still trying to get into more rooms. Taylor Welch's coaching program, because I used to work for Taylor Welch, and now Josh joined his coaching program. And I'm oh my gosh, I got to join Taylor's program now.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm just addicted to the growth at this point. I got the bug, and it's
it's true. And that's what makes it so addictive. And while you've been really honest about, addictions that have been harmful for you, your new addiction is, how do I produce for people? Right.
Yep.
And that will change the world. Right.
How do you produce for people? Exactly.
How do I produce for people? And let's talk about a high, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
A high that lasts and builds lasting relationships. And like you said, we just take people to the moon, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
Absolutely. You make your clients money, you got some best friends for the rest of your life.
You really do.
Yeah. Not just some money, obviously more than they pay you, which is the specific condition like Josh teaches us, which is like make them more, significantly more than they pay you.
Right.
And don't work with them or don't charge them so much if you can't.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And be ethical and and I heard one of my clients came to the mixture that we hosted in Vegas.
Yeah.
And that's what he was telling him. Like, he was like, my client was asking Josh, how do you justify increasing your prices? This is like, I'm not going to offer you that price because my integrity of my character, if I don't think I can get you that result, I'm not going to make that offer to you unless I know that I can get that result for you. And that is also why selling 50K packages is so easy, because it's like, you got leads, you got an offer, you don't have enough leverage. It's a no-brainer. I know I can make you a ton of money, just like you did with us with the webinar. In 24 hours, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And in less than 24 hours, you hopped on a call, you redid our entire webinar.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And it's okay. Well, you know what? I didn't even have an hour to review it. I ripped it live, and I opened it up and I just went for it. I had a few technical difficulties at the beginning with my presenter notes and stuff, but literally at the end, I didn't know what was going to happen. It was Sarah, this is for your viewers. It was such a good webinar that at about maybe 80% of the way through, I was like getting into my pitch, and I didn't know how to get into a pitch. I've never pitched anything before.
Right.
People were like, where do we buy? Where's the link? Da, 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 da. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, hold on. I'm getting there.
Oh,
and so like, I know it was terrible. Right. So we dropped the link, and then, we had like, I think 12 or 13 people pay $500 for a deposit for a game plan call.
Yeah.
And then we told Josh 40 about that. And he was like, dude, that for your first webinar is insane. Like, I did like 6 webinars and had thousands of attendees and didn't make $1. I lost money every time. And you came in within 24 hours, gave us a whole new structure, and helped us crush it big time.
You are.
And so, like I don't want to sugarcoat that. One of the reasons that we have the clout that we do is because that webinar was such a success with the Zappy Chat community. Yeah, I'm serious. It was amazing. And now, we're using that as a structure for our future webinars. And so like, that's just a testament to what you did for us. And we're super grateful for that.
Oh, well, we're so grateful for the ad space that you just filled in the podcast for my service.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much, my dear friend.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Victor's all the way.
Victor's all the way. You know me, man. See you in Denver. Love this conversation so much. And I love the ease in which you live life right now. I admire it. I feel it. I like, it's intoxicating to me. I'm like, more of that in my life, more of that ease, whether it's 50K deals or it's just what my focus is of delivering for my clients. And I really want to bring this home for people who have been listening, is the transformative part of your life was when you took off, I have to be a pro and a perfect and a nice guy hat. And when you put on, I am just going to be a student. And that is a hat I hope you never take off. Right. And I'm not bossing you like a mom. Okay. I'm just saying, as a friend, watching you grow with Josh, watching you maybe join Taylor or whoever else it is that you're going to go. But you have quoted everybody from like Bruce Lee. Like, you have brought in so many inspirations, right? Never split the difference, right? That you have constantly been in this space of learning. And now you are experiencing the fruit of your labors for sure. But you are still keeping that hat on, and I admire it so much.
Thank you for saying that. That's an encouragement to me to continue being like that, because I think a lot of us look for points at which we can stop being like that. Right,
and then we crumble. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the beginning of the end.
And I don't despise any adversity that I've been through. It's certainly to make us stronger. The divorce, which we can talk about in a different episode, but like, losing everything is when I gained everything. And so like, God allowed me to go through what I went through up until like we talked about everything in this episode. And like, we had a beautiful marriage, we had a house and stuff like that. And then in an instant, like, stuff that I did, and I'll own that. Like, I know, like, regardless of, any of the whose fault it was. I own it 100%. Because at the end of the day, like Tony Robbins said, if you would have given them everything that they wanted and everything that they needed, you would still be together. And so that is the hard, cold truth. And both parties in every divorce have to own that. Unless it was like some obvious thing, like the husband got on a drunken spree and like beat the wife, and she divorced. Like that's a different situation. But for me, I own 100%. Like I just didn't give her what she wanted and what she needed, and that's at the end of the story. But as an opportunity, I got to lose everything that I worked for, and it gave me more of a reason to become who I needed to become. And so that is like that in and of itself is a lesson that I hope everybody can learn, is that this, and the final quote there is Napoleon Hill: every adversity has a seed of equal or greater opportunity if and only if you look for it.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I can't think of a better wrap up, and I may put you on the hook for a second episode.
Oh, okay? For sure. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it in person. We have the event coming up in Denver.
We're going to be in Denver. We'll just sit across from each other and have this conversation. Because I got to ask you about legalization of marijuana. I got to ask you who you voted for. I want to dive deep worse. Like there's Trump. So many things. But there's a lot of follow-up questions about that I want to know. So that's got to have to be a part 2. And we'll do it in person. I am so grateful for you. I am grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for your warmth. I am also grateful that we are fiercely competitive with each other, and that we constantly are pushing ourselves to the next. I guess we're going to be 3.0? Is that how it works?
3.0, yeah. Let's keep leveling up.
Next level. I love it. So just
Sarah, me too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. So just in rapid fashion, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that are just quick things to help everybody settle in. What is one book that absolutely everybody should read? Mr. I've had 5 million mentors. Good luck.
The Celebration of Discipline.
That's brand new to me. Okay, I'll order it after this. Brilliant. Okay.
The Celebration of Discipline. It talks about 12 spiritual disciplines to practice.
Take it. What is something on your bucket list that you have not done?
Take my family to an international vacation and just enjoy luxury, and to say thank you to my mother and my father for everything.
I deeply respect that. Respect that. If you were to look at your life when you're, my age and old, 40, just kidding. Let's talk about maybe age 80 or 90, and you are going to pass on a legacy. What do you hope you are known for?
You made me think about this one.
That's okay.
Just honestly, passing down the hacks of life. I want to be known as the person that creates leverage in other people's lives to be able to grow faster, be better, do more, make more, have better relationships, like the hacks to a more quality life.
Oh, I love it.
Like that's what I want to be known for. Like this dude figured out life early on, and he gave us the cheat codes, and this is how you do it.
Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. A huge thank you to you for being here, for being so open.
Yes, and a huge thank you and a huge you're welcome. I really was looking forward to this all day. So I'm really excited for our part 2. And I'm excited for you to come on our podcast so I can do the same thing.
Magic. Grill me, man. Let's go. Okay. Thanks again so much for being here, Josh. We'll be in touch soon.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.